Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to share with you a secret. In just 1 week, I was able to entirely improve my life over the course of 5 behaviors that we are going to discuss in depth. That's right, you heard that correctly. 1 week. I am aware that it appears to be almost too good to be true, but I assure you that they are not your typical advice that you hear wherever you go. It is my personal experience that I have incorporated these genuine, unfiltered, and truthful routines into my everyday routine. As a result of going through the challenges, the breakthroughs, and the victories, I went through a metamorphosis that was nothing short of remarkable. It is with great anticipation that I will share these with you because they have had such a significant influence on my life, and I am confident that they will have the same effect on yours as well. In the event that you are looking to increase your productivity, enhance your mental health, or simply bring about a beneficial shift in your day-to-day life, the following habits can assist you in accomplishing your goals. Get yourself a cup of coffee, choose a comfortable position, and let's get started right away. Believe me when I say that you will want to stay until the very end, because these routines are not only theoretical, rather, they are actually practical, concrete activities that you can begin putting into practice right away. In addition, I will be sharing some personal experiences and insights from my own path, providing you with an unfiltered and honest look at how these behaviors worked for me. In light of this, let's get started without further ado. The first habit, getting up early. Getting up earlier was the first habit that brought about a difference in my life. I am going to tell you the truth right now. I have never been someone who enjoyed getting up early. When I was younger, my bed was my best friend, and I would hit the snooze button more times than I can count with my fingers. The mornings were a flurry of activity, and I frequently had the impression that I was getting off to a poor start with my day. In spite of this, I made the decision to give getting up early a try, and let me tell you, it was a life-changing experience. The first thing I did was set my alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning. The first several days were quite difficult. I can still vividly recall dragging myself out of bed, feeling sleepy and questioning whether or not this exercise was truly worth it. But I pushed through, and on the third day, something incredible started to happen. It was during the early morning hours that I started to enjoy the peace and calm that prevailed. When everything was quiet and tranquil, there was a certain something that was almost magical about being awake before the rest of the world. I was able to find time for activities that I had never appeared to have time for in the past because I had these additional hours in the morning. A little bit of light exercise was the first thing I did in the morning. It wasn't anything too strenuous. It was just some stretching or a quick jog around the neighborhood. I not only became alert as a result of this, but I also felt invigorated for the remainder of the day. In addition, I devoted some time to meditating and establishing my goals and objectives for the day. With just a few seconds of mindfulness, I was able to significantly improve both my overall mindset and my level of productivity. One more unexpected advantage of getting up early was that I no longer experienced feelings of being harried. I had plenty of time to savor a nutritious breakfast, consume my coffee in a leisurely manner, and make a plan for the day. The pace of this unhurried beginning set a pleasant tone for the rest of the day. My time management skills improved, I experienced less stress, and I had a stronger sense of control over my schedule. One personal experience that stands out was the morning I saw the sunrise from my balcony. This was a moment that was uncomplicated but incredibly wonderful. As the sky changed hues and the globe slowly woke up, I felt a deep sense of appreciation and calm. It was in that moment that I truly understood the power of waking up early. Now, getting up early might not be something that everyone is interested in doing, but I strongly suggest that you give it a shot, even if it's just for a week. Beginning with a mere 15 minutes earlier than your typical wake-up time, progressively increase the amount of time you wake up. It is possible that you will be taken aback by the extent to which it can have a good influence on your life. It is not enough to simply have extra hours in the day. You must also make use of those hours to create a more focused, intentional, and satisfying beginning to your day. The second habit is to exercise every day. In relation to exercises, the second habit that had a significant impact on my life was the practice of working out every day. Let me be completely honest with you. I wasn't always the most active person in the world. In the past, I would make every possible excuse to avoid working out, such as saying things like, "I'm too tired," "I don't have time," or "I'll start tomorrow." Does this sound familiar to you? Then one day, I made the decision that enough was enough. I made a promise to myself to move my body as much as possible each and every day for a week, and the effects were wonderful. I began with a modest amount of time, just 20 minutes every day, and I alternated between doing yoga, jogging, and weight training. I wanted to make sure that it was fascinating so that I wouldn't become bored and give up in the middle of it. A handful of the initial days were challenging. My muscles were aching, and I was feeling completely worn out. I took a moment to remind myself of the reason I was engaging in this activity: to improve my emotional and physical well-being. At the end of the fourth day, an incredible circumstance occurred. By the time I woke up, I felt more energized. I saw a significant improvement in my mood. The more positive I was, the less irritable I became. I came to the realization that the purpose of those 20 minutes of exercise was not only to enhance my muscle mass or burn calories. Rather, it was to provide me with the opportunity to concentrate on myself, to alleviate tension, and to increase my endorphin levels. Once upon a time, I can recall lacing up my sneakers in preparation for a jog. Over the course of my run, I had a sense of freedom and clarity that I hadn't felt in a very long time. The day was clean and crisp, and I was able to run on it. Only I, the wide road, and my thoughts were present at that moment. I found that feeling of connection to both myself and the environment around me to be really incredibly empowering. I also began to observe changes in my physical appearance, such as an improvement in my posture, a sense of increased strength, and a discernible shift in my general fitness level. The most significant shift, however, was in my frame of mind. It was during my workouts that I was able to disengage from the outside world and reconnect with myself. Rather than considering it a chore, it evolved into a sort of self-care. Another defining moment in my life was when I attempted yoga for the very first time. The first time I tried yoga, I was hesitant because I believed that I was not flexible enough or that it would not be a true workout. However, after a few sessions, I found that I was obsessed with it. Because of yoga, I learned to be fully present, to take deep breaths, and to pay attention to my body. In addition to the physical advantages, it was a life-changing experience that went beyond those rewards. My realization that taking care of my body had a direct impact on both my mental health and my general happiness came about as a result of my decisions to incorporate regular exercise into my routine. Find a kind of movement that you enjoy and make it a regular part of your life. It is not about being perfect or pushing yourself to extremes. Rather, it is about choosing a form of movement that you enjoy. For those of you who, like me, are having trouble getting started, my recommendation is that you begin with a tiny step. Whether it's dancing, hiking, or even just going for a brisk stroll, you should find something that you enjoy doing. Make a commitment to spending only a few minutes every day, and then gradually increase the amount of time you spend doing it. Take my word for it. The benefits you will enjoy will more than justify the effort you will put in. It is a routine that gives you the ability to alter not just your physical appearance, but also your entire perspective on life. A third habit is keeping a journal. Journaling is the third habit that I work on. Before, I was under the impression that journaling was reserved exclusively for individuals who were inherently introspective or who had a lot of spare time. My attitude was one of skepticism. What I mean is, when there is so much going on in one's life, who has the time to sit down and write about their day? However, after a week of continuous journaling, my perspective underwent a dramatic transformation, and it became an essential component of my journey toward personal development. Simply put, I began by devoting 10 minutes of my time each night just before going to bed to writing in my journal. I went out and purchased a simple notepad and a pen that was easy to hold. There were no fancy applications required, and there was no pressure to make it appear good. It was just me and my thoughts. I was at a loss for words on the first night, and I found myself staring at the blank page. On the other hand, I started with something as fundamental as how my day went, what brought me joy, and the things that I battled with. Throughout the course of the days, I began to delve more deeply. I wrote about my anxieties, my hopes, my goals, and even my vulnerabilities. I wrote about everything. The magic occurred while I was having a chat with myself, which was like having a conversation with myself. It was then that I became aware of patterns in both my thoughts and my actions. I came to the realization that some of the things that were giving me cause for concern were absolutely beyond my ability to control, while others were areas in which I could take actions to address them. Writing about a particularly hard day at work is something that I recall doing one night. I was able to better digest my feelings by writing down my ideas and putting them down on paper. In my writing, I discussed the precise things that caused me stress, how I felt as a result of those things, and what I could do differently the next time. My ability to get insight and feel more in control of my emotions was much enhanced by this straightforward exercise of reflection. I was able to keep track of my development, which was another significant feature of journaling. It didn't matter how insignificant the successes and milestones appeared to be, I made sure to record them. When I looked back over these entries, I felt a sense of success, and it inspired me to keep moving on with my life. To give you an example, I wrote about a presentation that I was anxious about and how I prepared for it. It was quite encouraging to see the great conclusion reflected in my notebook, as well as the process of preparation that I had gone through. A thanks column was also included in the journal that I started. I made it a habit to record 3 items with which I was thankful each day. My attention was redirected from the things that were lacking in my life to the things that I already had, and I began to appreciate them. It was a change that was both straightforward and profound, and it brought more positivity into my day-to-day existence. A particular entry that stands out in my mind is the one that describes a random act of kindness that I experienced. Whenever I was having trouble with my grocery bags, a complete stranger came to my aid. Not only did writing about this act of kindness make me feel appreciative, but it also motivated me to do something similar for other people. The act of keeping a journal allowed me to gain a great deal of insight about myself, including my worries, my desires, my strengths, and my limitations. As time went on, it evolved into a form of therapy, a method for unraveling the intricate web of thoughts and feelings that each of us carries around with us. My ability to be entirely honest with myself without the fear of being judged was made possible by the safe atmosphere that it provided. It is highly recommended that you begin keeping a journal if you have never done so before. You shouldn't be concerned about writing properly or having meaningful insights just yet. Simply jot down whatever thought comes to mind, either a stream of consciousness, a summary of your day, or some thoughts on a particular event could be included. Specific event. You should allow oneself the liberty to express whatever it is that you are experiencing. Depending on how much clarity and tranquility it brings into your life, you might be surprised by how much it brings. Always keep in mind that the process of writing itself is more important than the content that you choose to write. The fourth habit is to eat mindfully. Mindful eating is the next topic. I used to eat on the go, and I didn't pay much attention to what I was eating or how much I was eating. This was a significant change for me because, like many other people, I used to do this. The majority of the time, I ate my meals in a hurried and distracted manner while simultaneously scrolling through my phone or working on my laptop. The fact that this was having such a significant impact on my general health was not brought to my attention until I made the decision to give mindful eating a try for a week. Paying complete attention to the sensations that occur during the act of eating and drinking, both within and outside of the body, is the essence of the practice of mindful eating. The key is to take your time and relish each bite, paying attention to the flavors, textures, and even sounds that your food makes. As a result, I resolved to eat each of my meals with a conscious awareness. The first thing I did was prepare the environment for my meals. Without a phone, a television, or a laptop, I cleaned my dining table, made a beautiful spot for myself, and eliminated all potential sources of distraction. Sitting quietly with my lunch was initially a bit of an odd experience for me, but it rapidly became into a routine that helped me relax. Each time I sat down to eat, I started by taking a few slow, deep breaths to help me get my bearings and bring my attention to the here and now. A significant improvement in the quality of my meals was one of the first things I became aware of. I savored each bite and made sure to give it my full attention and appreciation. There was a sudden emergence of new and pleasant flavors and textures in foods that I had consumed hundreds of times before but had never really noticed before. As an illustration, the contrast between the crispiness of fresh vegetables and the sweetness of ripe fruit became significantly more prominent. Having this experience was like having a high-definition food display. I also noticed that I felt considerably more full after meals, which was another significant shift. By taking my time and eating thoughtfully, I allowed my body the opportunity to show me when it was satisfied. This was a significant change for me because I used to eat rapidly and frequently ended up eating more than I needed to. I found that by paying attention to my indications for hunger and fullness, I was able to naturally consume less food and experience a greater sense of satisfaction. The experience of eating a bowl of oats was one that will stick with me forever. In a normal situation, I would devour it without giving it a second thought. However, this time, I took my time and savored the smooth consistency as well as the subtle sweetness of the honey that I poured on top. The moment turned into a moment of thankfulness and awareness, which helped me to have a more optimistic outlook for the remainder of the day. In addition to this, I started to become aware of how various foods made me feel. The consumption of manufactured foods made me feel sluggish and bloated, whereas the consumption of fresh, whole foods made me feel invigorated and light within. Because of this insight, I was able to make naturally healthier choices without experiencing feelings of deprivation or restriction. Becoming conscious of the emotional connections we have with the food we eat is another component of the mindful eating practice. As time went on, I became aware of the instances in which I was eating not out of genuine hunger, but rather out of boredom, stress, or emotional comfort. This realization was really potent. Rather than mindlessly munching, I might address the underlying emotion that I was experiencing. Perhaps I needed a break, some relaxation, or a conversation with a friend rather than a bag of chips. One evening in particular, after dinner, I felt a yearning for something sweet. I couldn't help but order something sweet. I halted and questioned myself if I was actually hungry or if I was just looking for a reward after a long day. Instead of grabbing for dessert without thinking, I paused and asked myself this question. After coming to the realization that I was not genuinely hungry, I decided to go with a warm cup of herbal tea instead. It was a minor win that brought to light the power that may be gained by practicing mindful eating. The practice of mindful eating was a life-changing event for me when I first started applying it. It helped me build a healthy relationship with food, improved my digestion, and even elevated my general sense of well-being. I am currently experiencing all of these benefits. It's a routine that I've maintained beyond that first week, and I can't suggest it highly enough to anyone. Beginning with just one meal each day is a good place to begin if you are interested in trying out mindful eating. Take a seat in a place where there are no interruptions. Take a few mindful breaths and relish each meal. It is important to pay attention to the flavors, textures, and feelings that the food evokes in you. Your entire eating experience can be completely transformed by this straightforward exercise, which may come as a surprise to you. Getting in touch with your body and gaining a deeper appreciation for the nutrients that food provides is a good approach to reconnect with your body. Putting a time limit on screen time is habit number 5. 5. Limiting the amount of time spent in front of a screen. My experience with this one was extremely difficult, and I have a feeling that it was the same for a good number of you as well. Because we live in a digital environment, it is quite simple to become engrossed in activities like scrolling through social media, binge-watching television series, or checking email for an extended period of time. I came to the realization that the amount of time I spent in front of a screen was having a negative impact on my mental health, my productivity, and even my sleep. As a result, I made the decision to establish some limits and observe the results. My first step was to establish a daily restriction of 1 hour for screen use that was not tied to work. This meant that there would be no mindless scrolling through Instagram, no never-ending marathons on YouTube, and no late-night binges on television. At first, it was a challenge. I had grown so accustomed to spending every free moment in front of a screen, yet I was aware that I needed to make a difference in my daily routine. First thing that came to my attention was the fact that I had a lot more time in my day. When I first started actively limiting the amount of time I spent in front of devices, I had no idea how much time they were taking up. I realized that I was able to rediscover old hobbies and interests that I had neglected due to the extended amount of time that I had available. I started sketching and drawing again, and I even tried my hand at cooking new recipes. I picked up a book that I had been intending to read for what seemed like an eternity. After I finished my meal one evening, I made the decision to go for a walk in the park rather than watching television. Taking in the crisp air, listening to the sounds of nature, and simply moving my body all contributed to a feeling of immense revitalization, a dramatic contrast to the usual weariness I experienced as a result of being glued to a screen. Taking that walk turned into a treasured component of my daily routine. It was something I eagerly anticipated and took much pleasure in doing. The quality of my sleep was another important shift that occurred. When I was younger, I would bring my phone to bed with me and watch videos or surf through social media until I felt completely exhausted. On the other hand, this practice frequently left me feeling wired and restless, which resulted in interrupted sleep. I discovered that reducing the amount of time I spent in front of a screen, particularly in the hours leading up to bedtime, made it much simpler for me to wind down and get to sleep. I began a pattern before going to bed that did not involve using electronic devices, such as reading a physical book, meditating, or simply thinking about the events of the day. I experienced a significant improvement in my general energy levels as a result of this shift, which also led to a more restful and deeper sleep. The state of my mental health has also shown signs of improvement. I experienced less anxiety and a greater sense of presence when I was not subjected to the constant onslaught of news updates, comparisons on social media, and other digital distractions. It was easier for me to concentrate during conversations, pay closer attention to the people around me, and be more involved in the activities I do on a regular basis. It was as if a cloud had lifted, making it possible for me to see and feel life with significantly more clarity. An experience that stands out in my mind is the time when I went to a nearby cafe and sat there with nothing but a notebook and a pen for the entire afternoon. My thoughts were written down, I made some plans for the future, and I even sketched a little bit. Without any distractions from digital devices, it was a delightfully tranquil and fruitful period of time. In a way that screens had never been able to do, I experienced a greater sense of connection to both myself and my environment. There were, without a doubt, instances of temptation and slip-ups along the way. But whenever I became aware that I was reaching for my phone out of habit, I gently reminded myself of the benefits that I was feeling and shifted my attention to something that was more satisfying. Putting a limit on the amount of time you spend in front of a screen does not mean completely removing technology from your life. Rather, it means striking a more healthy balance and being more deliberate with how you spend your time. I would want to advise you to try setting some boundaries for your screen time if you are experiencing feelings of being overwhelmed or disconnected. Begin with a little amount, perhaps reducing your daily time by 1 hour and gradually increase it. Reconnect with yourself, the people you care about, and the world around you by making use of the more time you have. When you take a break from your electronic devices and spend more time in the real world, you might be surprised to find that your life becomes significantly more rewarding and colorful as a result. I would want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on this trip through the 5 habits that have significantly altered my life in just 1 week. The experience of not just putting these routines into practice, but also of sharing them with you has been nothing short of extraordinary. Every one of these routines has the potential to bring about major and favorable changes in your life, and I am convinced that if they were successful for me, they are also capable of being successful for anyone else. For those of you who have been motivated by any of these routines, I strongly suggest that you give them a shot for yourselves now. Try it out on a modest scale, perhaps with just one habit, and see how it goes. Adjust in accordance with what is suitable for your way of life and requirements. Keep in mind that the objective is not perfection, but rather progress. It is about making adjustments that are achievable and minor, but over time they will add up to significant alterations. I would be really interested in hearing about your experiences, so if you could kindly leave a comment below, I would appreciate it if you could share whatever habit you are considering adopting or any questions you might have about beginning. Everything that makes this group so incredible and encouraging is the feedback and stories that you share. Furthermore, if you found this video to be helpful, please make sure to give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell so that you do not miss any of our upcoming content. In the near future, we will be sending you a great deal more information and advice that you won't want to miss. It is possible that if you share this video with relatives or friends who could potentially benefit from these routines, it will also make a significant difference in their lives. Thank you so much for watching, and always keep in mind that even minor adjustments can have a significant impact. Let's continue to develop, continue to evolve, and transform the mundane activities that we do every day into significant opportunities for personal growth.